Hello everyone, this is Alex Masichev of Intvillion, the developers of DITA CMS. We are conducting this webinar with SimplyXML, the makers of ContentMapper. I'm co-presenting with Doug Gorman, the CEO and founder of SimplyXML.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us.
Doug and I have decades of experience implementing structured writing and structured content in most industries and most sections of the industrialized world. And thank you for joining us. We are recording the webinar and we'll send you the link to the recording after the event is finished. All attendees are muted to avoid the background noise. If you want to ask a question, please type it in the chat box. After the demo, we'll have a Q&A session where we'll be happy to answer your questions. But you don't have to wait until the end. Just type your questions as they arise. Probably all of you heard about the great things that DITA can bring. And maybe those of you who are in DITA are already enjoying these amazing things. Indeed, DITA provides powerful and flexible content reuse capabilities that let you reuse content virtually on any level. DITA helps you get a consistent structure and look and feel across all your content. If you translate content with DITA, translation costs can be dramatically reduced. With DITA, you can flexibly personalize content for different audiences and easily handle multiple content variations. DITA is known for its abilities to be a single source for a wide variety of output formats, and as a structured format, DITA opens virtually unlimited opportunities to automate content assembly and content generation. And we'll talk about it too later, by the way. But I don't think that I'll unveil a huge secret here if I say that this comes at a price. The perception of DITA is quite a high level of complexity. And let's face it, the DITA content model is complicated. You do need to switch to new tools, and it does cause a learning curve because you need to both get used to a completely new authoring environment based on a different paradigm and force yourself to make a shift in your mindset to begin writing in the topic-oriented approach. This becomes even more critical if you want your fellow co-workers who are not technical writers to contribute content. I can imagine a technical writer who feels more or less comfortable dealing with DITA elements and attributes, but I can hardly imagine an SME who would agree to switch to a DITA editor from MS Word even if you clearly communicate benefits that the SME might win. As a result, usually quite a lot of time is required before you begin to realize the investment you've done into DITA. This leads to a relatively slow adoption of DITA, especially beyond technical documentation departments, because no one wants to deal with this level of complexity, again, even if you clearly explain the benefits that DITA may bring. It's because the overall perception of the benefits versus complexity is that getting more benefits requires more complexity. And this is a problem because the benefits will be realized at some point in the future, but the complexity is introduced now. A good news is that it does not have to be this way. In the world that we're trying to build, the complexity is hidden. All complicated mechanisms do exist, but they're silently working in the background, under the hood. So this complexity does not have to be exposed to you, while you can still enjoy all the benefits immediately. Like John Lennon saying, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And I do hope someday you will join us. Let me ask you something now. What is the most popular authoring tool in our days? Believe it or not, but it's still MS Word. More than 1 billion people around the world still use MS Word. Even for technical documentation, MS Word is the most popular editor. But MS Word and DITA have been traditionally perceived as rivals, as mutually exclusive options, as representatives of two different universes. And there was a good reason. Word does everything, and this is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. So SimplyXML came up with a product called ContentMapper. It's an add-on to Word that lets you author in the same way as you did it before. That is, no need to choose elements or deal with the nesting and element hierarchies, but behind the scenes, data is generated. But it's not enough to create data. You need to somehow manage it and have a central repository available to all content authors and contributors. This is where DITA 2 comes to the picture. DITA 2 is a full-blown, still very easy-to-use data content management system that facilitates and automates tasks that you have to do every day, including search, creations, manage translations, review content, control versions and releases, manage workflow, publish, and so on. DITA 2 does not 100 minutes. We'll start with converting an MS Word document to DITA automatically. Then we'll edit the converted topics in Word using ContentMapper. We'll show you how you can create new topics from scratch and reuse content on different levels, again, without knowing anything about DITA. Then we'll add a new topic to the DITA map and see how we can publish DITA directly from MS Word with ContentMapper. And we'll conclude the demo with showing you what amazing things can be done automatically if you're using DITA. And we'll answer your questions, of course. So it's showtime. If you were checking your emails, you can go back to the main screen now because the show begins. Like I said, we'll start with taking an MS Word document and we'll convert it to DITA automatically using the built-in DITA 2 capabilities. An interesting thing about this particular MS Word document that it's almost completely unstyled. If you take a look at it, you will see that most of the content is formatted manually using just the normal style. This body text is normal. The text in the table is normal. This bulleted list is just normal. This numbered list is normal. This bold text was made by selecting this piece of text and pressing Control-B on the keyboard without any specific style applied. So that would be a problem with almost any conversion, traditional conversion tool, because as you probably know, conversion from MS Word to DITA is usually based on styles. As long as your MS Word document is consistently and properly styled, you're fine. But if you're not, you would have to do a lot of cleanup before or after the conversion. So fortunately for us, DITA 2 does not rely on styles. DITA 2 will do several things now. It will split the entire document into individual topics based on headings, and then it will automatically identify the information type of the original content. So for example, this piece of content will be converted to task, while this one will be converted to concept. Then DITA 2 will assemble all the converted topics into a DITA map. The DITA map will resemble the structure of the original Word document. And finally, DITA 2 will upload all this converted content to the central repository. So I can close it now. And I'm going to DITA 2. On the left, on the repository tab, we can see the contents of the repository. So I'm going to import the Word document that we've just seen. DITA 2 is now parsing the MS Word document and converting it to DITA automatically. And all the converted content will be stored in the central repository to which both Doug and myself have access. As you can see, DITA 2 created 3 folders, one for concepts, one for tasks, and one for graphics. We can do a preview. The preview is generated using a default style sheet. So this is a preview of one of the topics. It's in DITA now. We can run a preview of one of the tasks. Here you go. And if you go to the projects tab, we'll see that the DITA map was also automatically assembled. And this DITA map resembles the structure of the original Word document. The question now is, what are we going to do with the converted contents? Up until now, we would need to use a traditional DITA editor if we want to update one of these topics or create a new one. But now, Doug is going to show you how you can stay in your MS Word authoring environment, but update DITA and create new DITA topics from within MS Word. Doug, over to you.
I hope you'll recognize this as Microsoft Word. ContentMapper is a plugin to Microsoft Word. And as Alex mentioned, the issue with Word is people love it because it does everything, but organizations trying to implement a writing and content standard hate it because it does everything. So the first thing we do as ContentMapper is we take full control of the Word user interface. And we are intelligent about what we let the writer or author do. So I've clicked on ContentMapper and it wants to know, do I want to start a new document, open a document, or import using Word styles. In this case, I'm going to go to the repository. I'm going to look in the DITA2 repository. And here is the DITA map that Alex created. So we can see in the DITA map editor that this is my DITA map. This is my repository. And up here is a view of the DITA map and the contents. So that's a view of a topic, another topic. I can go through the whole chapter. So to the right you see a rendering, and to the left, on the upper left, you see the actual content itself. I can open a document, a topic, and it's going to convert it from DITA to the Microsoft Word user interface. I can make a change. Save the document, check it in, which is a feature of DITA2. Go back to my repository, refresh it, and you'll see that I easily made the changes. I didn't have to know what a DITA map was. I didn't have to know anything about XML or DITA. So let's create a new document and look at some of the features of ContentMapper. Here's a DITA topic. I create the topic, and you see now that the user interface has lit up a little more. I could save the document. I could add properties to the DITA topic. I could publish the topic. DITA has a short description that is optional. And here's a section. So the writer's going to work in this tab, which basically has the functions of Word. I can put in a bulleted list. I could put in a numbered list. We have multiple kinds of reuse within ContentMapper. One is a reusable table. So these help improve the consistency or your brand. So here's a reusable table. I can put in a fragment. A fragment is a piece of content that is editable. I can put in a picture. And these can be located either on the writer's own computer or as being a fish I just caught, well, a little earlier in the year. And then we also have in DITA the idea of a component reference or a conref. And I can go look in the repository. And I can look at a DITA topic and it will let me pick a section. And then I have an option of inserting it either as a reference or as a copy. If I insert it as a reference, it's not editable. So this again helps improve not only the efficiency of the writer, but reuse as an efficient tool, but it improves the brand as well. Going back, I'm just going to save this. So I'm back to my DITA 2 repository. I'll just name the folder Doug. I'll mention that we also support the Word review functions. So at the topic level, I can turn on track changes. I can make changes. I can add comments, save to the repository. So the Word review functions can be used as part of the workflow. We support the Word bibliography functions. I can put in citations, I can manage footnotes, all of that with an easy user interface that doesn't require the author to know anything about DITA or XML. So I've saved this. Let me just save it again. And I'm going to turn it back over to Alex so he can show you what it looks like from the technical repository point of view.
Doug?
Yep.
So as you can see, because both Doug and I are working with a central repository, I can immediately see the new topics that Doug has just added. I can also see the change that he has done to this overview topic. I can do preview, and I can see the new title that Doug created. And just to prove you that there are no tricks, and ContentMapper actually generates a standard valid data, I'm going to show you the XML source of the topic that Doug updated. So as you can see, it's still a standard valid data. right, with the new topic, with the new title that Doug changed. And also we can go to the folder that Doug has just created called Doug, and we can also take a look at the XML source of the topic he has created, and as we can see, it's still a standard valid DITA. It's nothing proprietary, and it can be round-tripped with any DITA editor you have. Okay, Doug, over to you.
So I'm going to go back into ContentMapper. And we actually call what Alex showed you the ugly but useful XML. So we're going to do one more thing here. We're going to drag my topic up into the book map, because the way we create maps is basically by dragging and dropping topics of any type up into another format. I can publish. We have multiple options. I could publish the ugly but useful XML. I could publish using what's called the DITA Open Toolkit, which is a free open source group of utilities that transform. And I can also publish using all the many capabilities of Microsoft Word, which had, so I'm changing the content back to Microsoft Word from this DITA XML. And we've got a look and feel that's easy to create. So here's a PDF. It built a cover page, put in a spacer page, built a table of contents. Here was the easy printer and the DITA book map. But again, note that I never had to know anything about DITA or anything about XML. So publishing is very simple once you have a DITA XML source, and you can publish to EPUBs, you can publish to HTML, you can publish to PDF. So I'm going to turn it back now to Alex, and we'll show you some fancy stuff. Because once your content is automated, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Doug. So just a couple of notes about what you've just seen. You can definitely run publishing from within ContentMapper, or alternatively, you can also run publishing from DITA 2. This is a very easy thing to do. And like ContentMapper, DITA 2 can also use DITA Open Toolkit or any other publishing engine, including FrameMaker, WebWorks, ePublisher, Antenna House, and so on. So this gives you this wizard that lets you pick up the customized Excel style sheets if you have any, specify the output format, and produce an output. So, and also, as a content management system, DITA provides you with a wide variety of content management capabilities. So one thing, for example, where DITA can be helpful is an ability to track content reuse, right? So for example, you can pick up any topic and ask DITA to show you where it is reused. So this one is not reused anywhere, but for example, this one is used in this DITA map. So this gives you an idea what deliverables will be affected if you change this particular topic. Now, and like we said, DITA is great for content reuse, consistency, translations, multi-channel publishing, and content personalization. But there is much more than that, because DITA provides the structure and semantic markup for your content. There are virtually unlimited possibilities for automating processes that now you have to do manually. For example, content can be assembled, aggregated, and generated automatically and dynamically. And I'm going to show you now one small example of what can be done just to spark your imagination a little bit. Suppose a documentation team documenting a complex product that includes multiple components. The system consists of several components, and each component is assigned to a certain writer or a group of writers. So each writer creates a collection of topics that describe the component. So one writer can write a topic something like this to document the component that was assigned to this writer. Another writer documented another component. And now there is a topic that will aggregate the information about all individual pieces of information, about all the scattered pieces of information, and will dynamically generate two things. First of all, it will create a system architecture diagram that will depict all the system components and show how they communicate to each other. And the second thing that will be generated automatically is the summary table. And this, the summary table will include brief descriptions of the system components. So this placeholder image will be replaced with dynamically and automatically generated system architecture diagram. And this placeholder table will be replaced with a table that provides brief descriptions of all the components. So all we need to do is to change its workflow state to ready for transfer magic. And we pick up the transfer magic that we want to apply to this particular case. There are a bunch of them. And DITA is now doing its magic. It processes all individual topics, retrieves the required information, and generates the architecture diagram and the summary table. So now if we take a look at this topic, we'll see that now it contains the automatically generated diagram that depicts all the system components and shows how they communicate to each other. The look and feel, the layout of this diagram can be easily configured. Colors can be configured. The way each component looks can be configured. The format of the image can be configured. This diagram can be clickable. So when you click on a certain component, then a corresponding topic is popped up, and so on. And the second thing that was generated is this summary table. As you can see, it now includes a brief description of the system components. And all this was assembled automatically. This means that if you now have a new component, or maybe your product has multiple flavors, and each flavor the components are slightly different, or the way they communicate to each other is slightly different based on the product flavor or release or whatever. Or a component becomes obsolete, or a component is merged with another component. So all you need to do is to run the transfer magic again, and both the system architecture diagram and the summary table will be regenerated automatically. So this is just one little thing that DITA as a structured content format allows you to do. Okay, and I think we are getting questions here, and it's now a good time to take them. Okay, Doug, I assume that you can also read the questions. So I think the first question is addressed to myself. Do all of the Word users need a DITA 2 license, or can they work on a DITA 2 mapped drive? Well, it depends of what Word user is. If your technical writers are using MS Word and ContentMapper as their primary XML DITA editor, then they need DITA 2 license because they will also want to manage content. If MS Word and ContentMapper are used primarily by content contributors like SMEs, reviewers, engineers, and so on, who do not need all content management capabilities and whose only goal is to be able to put new content to the repository or update the content stored in the repository or review this content, then they would need to have the license for the virtual drive. Now, if you're not familiar with this feature, this is actually amazing. Just really, I will explain it really briefly. DITA 2 virtual drive mounts the central database-driven DITA 2 repository as a local drive on your computer. So look at file at Windows Explorer on my computer. So as you can see drive C and D, which are physical drives that are actually mounted on my computer. And drive Z is actually my database-driven central repository that just pretends to be my local drive. This means that from the perspective of any tool, including Word and ContentMapper, the repository, the central repository, is just another local drive. So if you have a user who wants to use Word and ContentMapper to contribute content, they will need to have a license for the DITA 2 virtual drive so they can access the DITA 2 content repository, but they don't necessarily need DITA 2 itself. I hope this answers the question, but if not, just please feel free to ask any additional questions. Doug, I think the next question is to you. Well, how easy is it to set up boilerplate tables and etc. with ContentMapper?
Okay, there are multiple. You saw fragments, you saw tables. These are basically generated in ContentMapper, saved as XML, and just stored in a fragments folder or a tables folder that is accessible either on the user's PC or up in the repository. You can also create easy starter templates, say for a business plan or a product sell sheet, and those are done the same way. You create them in ContentMapper, you save them as XML, and you load them into a templates folder. I see another question here, Alex, that I like because it asks if the product supports multiple repositories. So we do have people using multiple repositories. The issue there is our product is repository aware, and you can move content between repositories, but it's not as simple as drag or drop. You have to move through a change in file association. So we do support multiple repositories, and many of our customers use multiple repositories.
Okay. And the next question is the published portion doc is showing part of ContentMapper or DITA2? So if you're referring to this publishing wizard, then this is part of ContentMapper.
Correct.
Are ContentMapper and DITA are a package, or can ContentMapper be used with other CMS? I assume that you're referring to DITA2 rather than to DITA in general. The answer is ContentMapper and DITA2 are standalone. The tight integration with ContentMapper is provided out of the box.
That's correct, but both products emphasize flexibility. So if you have an environment with multiple DITA editors, like Oxygen or XMetal, you can use that just fine with the DITA2 repository. And if you have multiple repositories, you can use ContentMapper across them. DITA is DITA. That's one reason it's a standard and recognized. You don't get locked in. But the integration we have with DITA2 gives you really good functionality.
Okay, and the next question is, my client has an extensive set of DITA templates in FrameMaker. Reason that they cannot open the resulting bookmap in FrameMaker to publish their output. So I think this is your call.
If they're DITA templates, it's standard DITA. It would open in DITA2 and would be accessible from ContentMapper. We have a facility we call that generalizes any kind of specialized DITA, allowing it to open in ContentMapper, and then it specializes again on save. So I guess the answer to your question is probably right out of the box fine, but if not, we'd take a look at it. As long as the underlying structure is DITA, it should be very consistent.
Right.
Now, that said, ContentMapper operates with a subset of the DITA tag set. The reason DITA is perceived as so complex is that out of the box there are some 500 elements, including the learning and training specialization, that some people just love to learn. But our word-based authors want simplicity. So we've selected a subset of the DITA tag set, maybe 50 or 60 different elements in a reasonable hierarchy for the word user. So we're trying to always balance the need for simplicity versus the complexity of the full DITA tag set.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, and here we've got another question. Since DITA2 does the conversion automatically, will there be consistency in the topic naming? Okay, so first of all, I guess you can still see my screen. When DITA2 converts MS Word to DITA, then the file names are generated automatically. And the file name, as you can see here, all these topics are converted automatically. So as you can see, the file name includes the file name of the original MS Word document, followed by the topic title. Having this said, we have another product called Convert2. Convert2 is a standalone product that was specifically designed to convert MS Word to DITA. So this is a standalone tool that does not require DITA2, and Convert2 provides a more sophisticated conversion algorithm that provides you with more fine-tuning settings. And one of the features that we're going to add to Convert2 in the nearest future is an ability to generate file names of the converted topics exclusively based on the title. So basically the title will become the file. The title of the MS Word section or chapter or whatever will become the topic file name. So I hope this answers the question. Oh, and Doug, I now see this question about an ability to support multiple repositories. So if you don't mind, I can answer this question now from the DITA 2 perspective.
Okay.
So basically, with DITA 2, this can be implemented. You have at least several options. One option is to have multiple repositories indeed, but the question is why you would need multiple repositories, right? So if it's because you have multiple products and you have different teams working on different products, then probably a better approach would be to have one single repository for all your products, but then specify different access permissions for different users. So for example, let's say you have a user who is working on product A, and for whatever reason you don't want this user to see any information related to product B. So you set up the access permissions of this particular user in a way that only the information about product A will be shown to him. You can take it even further and say that that user can actually see the information about product B, but in the read-only mode. That user will not be able to do anything with that information. So this is definitely a possibility. So one option, like I said, is to have all your product information about all products stored in the single repository. Again, without knowing your particular use case, I'm a little bit blind, so I'm just trying to think approaches to really have multiple repositories, and then when you sign in to DITA 2, you can specify to which repository you want to connect, right? And then depending on what you set up, the DITA 2 will show you the different contents. So, but if you can, and if you can just explain me your use cases, and we can give you just a better, more specific advice.
Alex, it's probably worth mentioning here that you're in Israel and I'm in the United States. And when we started working together, there was a little bit of a lag when we worked off the same repository. So we set up a distributed environment where I have DITA 2 in the US, you have yours in Israel, and there's a constant updating back and forth. And that's why the performance was so good between our two systems, and why we could go back and forth so efficiently between Alex using the repository and me. We were actually using different repositories that were being synchronized.
That's right. And Doug, thank you very much for mentioning this. So yes, if you have a geographically distributed team, so for example, if one part of your team is based in the United States and another part is in Europe, and one more team is based in India, for example, then if you have just one central repository based in the US, then inevitably you cannot go against the laws of the Mother Nature. Inevitably, your users from Europe and India will have a kind of communication lag when they will be communicating with a content server based in the United States. So to avoid a situation and to eliminate this kind of communication lags, we developed a distributed architecture, which means that each team has their own local content server. So in our specific configuration with the Doug and myself, we have two content servers. One is based in Boston, it's where Doug is, and another one is based in Tel Aviv, it's where I am now. And then there is another server, the synchronization server, which is constantly, which is running in the background silently, and it's constantly synchronizing our two local servers, making sure that both Doug and I are always working with the same data. So this is a very efficient architecture in case you have a geographically distributed team. Okay, and the next question is, how does a user enter element attribute values? how is conditional profiling applied? Does it also support the use of key definitions and key references? Doug, I think this is your call.
Okay.
Okay.
If you are working on a DITA topic or a DITA task or a concept, ContentMapper lets you put properties in. So the properties are metadata that's attached to the topic. If you're within a topic in a section, for instance, you can add attributes on the section, on the table, on the picture. So those can be picked up either in the publishing wizard or from the DITA Open Toolkit with DITA val files for conditional publishing. For those in the audience, conditional publishing would let you take a big cross-section of content and specify that certain content is, say, confidential, or for expert audiences only, or for novice audiences only, and it would, at publish time, either filter content in by the attributes or filter content out by the attributes. That's why it's called conditional publishing.
Right, and the next question is, WordCal's table allows the user to force a table row to the next page, but that feature is not available in Oasis Exchange table model in DITA. How are Word features that are not available, such as managing text and headers and footers, prevented?
I'm not sure I can answer that question directly. I'd have to do a little bit of research. But basically what we're doing is, with ContentMapper, is slimming down the capabilities of Word. We do support Word tables, and there are certain capabilities we can add, for instance, a hard page break. But we'd have to talk a little more and see if there could be an attribute on a row where that attribute had an output class that said to start a new table. There are a couple different ways I can imagine handling that, but this is probably not a question for the general audience.
Does DITA 2 support FrameMaker? Yes, DITA 2 does support FrameMaker, and it's tightly integrated with FrameMaker, so which means that from within FrameMaker you can access the DITA repository. If I am just using ContentMapper, how do I see the DITA XML?
You would publish the XML and look at it. You can't look at it simultaneously. That's actually an ease of use feature that we feel strongly about. Most of our customers do not want to see the XML. So there's always, if you saw from the publishing screen, the ability to show the XML, and you can either publish it or you can preview it so that you have access to it, but it's not going to be side by side with the ContentMapper Word user interface. Okay.
So the next question is, does DITA 2 support DITA 1.3 and DITA Open Toolkit 2.5? Well, the answer is yes and no. Yes, because you can store topics written in DITA 1.3 like troubleshooting and all those new information types in the DITA 2 repository, and that will be just fine. But we are going to add in one of the upcoming releases the user interface and features that will enable you to manage 1.3 specific features like branch filtering or scoped keys, right? So if you already have scoped keys or branch filtering in your DITA map, that's fine. That is no problem with DITA 2. But we're going to add the user interface that will allow you to manage them in a more efficient way. DITA Open Toolkit 2.5 is not currently supported, but it will be in the upcoming release. Is there a way to show where all of your reused content is located across documents? Yes. And this is why we have a feature called Where Used. So for example, if I take this topic and I want to know in which document it is reused. I select this topic, I right-click on it, and I select Find Where Used. And this gives me a list of all the data maps as well as other data files that are referencing the topic in question. It's not very interesting in this particular case because we have just one data map that is referencing this overview topic. But if I have, if we would have several of them, you would see all of them here. Can the publishing be configured to the CMS? Well, it depends on what you mean by configuring. If you are asking whether the look and feel can be configured in the CMS, no. What you can do, however, is when you publish a project, for example, this one, in the publish window, if you have your customized XSL style sheets, you can select them here, and then your customized XSL style sheets will be applied. But we assume that you would develop them out of the CMS. Having this said, probably ContentMapper can help you with setting up the look and feel of the output, at least with a PDF output. Doug, am I right?
Correct. From the publishing wizard, it's done with .dot files, if you know the word publishing capability, or it can be done with CSS style sheets as well.
Which is actually amazing because I have pretty much experience with customizing DITA Open Toolkit XSL, and I do know that it does require a lot of work, and it does require a lot of knowledge. And here, if you're familiar a little bit with how Word works and how Word templates work, you can do this on your own.
When I do demos, I just take somebody else's .dot file that I did a demo for, and I change the graphics around and make a look and feel that's reasonable. And I'm a total novice at that. People who know what they're doing can create a look and feel in no time.
This question says, we have Team Center that has all our engineering data. IT would prefer to host all our content in a single CMS. Is that possible? Well, if you have, I'm not an expert in Team Center. I just know that this is a content management system. Now, the question is, if you have a content management system in place already, why would you need anything else? Or maybe I'm missing here something. So, but again, if we don't answer any of the questions, or if you'd like to continue the discussion that way, having here, please feel free to contact Doug or myself or both of us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Oh, because their DITA support is so-so. So basically, what can be probably done, but we need to take a deeper look into Team Center. So probably what we can do, we can integrate DITA2 and ContentMapper into your Team Center repository, and somehow import content from there so that the content will be stored there, but we would be able to manage it in DITA2. But so I think generally it's doable, but we would need to learn more about how Team Center works and what exactly is missing, and what exactly use cases and processes should be supported. So I suggest to take it offline and continue this discussion. I would be very interested to talk about it more. And I guess, Doug, I think this would be a very interesting scenario for you as well.
Thank you all for attending. We hope you learned something and had a good time, and please follow up with us.
Yes, thank you very much for attending. Like I said, the recording will be available soon. And to all we wish to all our attendees from the United States, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the long weekend, and we hope to hear from you soon.